greatest tragedy of man is not his weakness, but his distraction. You, who chase applause, who waste your mind on the opinions of others, are already conquered. But today, we uncover a rule so cold, so ruthless, that it can shield your mind against all invaders. The problem we will solve is simple. Why do so many lose themselves in the noise of the world? And how can you weaponize focus to seize unshackable mental power? A ruler's downfall does not begin with the sword. It begins with the mind. And the mind is lost not in a single strike, but in 1,000 cuts, each one delivered by distraction. Do you hear me, listener? The battlefield of today is no longer walled cities, nor bloodied soil, nor banners raised high in the name of kings. The battlefield is your own attention. You live in a world where the enemy does not march in formation, but seeps into your thoughts through whispers, through glowing screens, through the endless demands of others. And here is the cruelest truth: the man who does not master his focus is already conquered. You think armies defeat nations? No, nations collapse when their rulers are distracted. And so too will your life collapse when your mind is scattered. Distraction is a slow poison. It is the friend who calls you away from your work. It is the crowd who demands your approval. It is the constant itch of curiosity that drives you to waste your hours chasing nothing. You may laugh at such small matters, but a ruler does not lose his crown in one careless gesture. He loses it piece by piece, while his attention drifts away from what truly matters. Look carefully at those around you. Most men live not as masters, but as prisoners. They are shackled by the need to respond, to react, to check, to listen, to reply. Their minds belong to the world, not to themselves. And if a man cannot command his own mind, how can he hope to command anything else? Picture this: a prince sits in his hall, and all around him, advisors shout their counsel. One urges caution, another cries for war, a third demands compromise, and still another whispers betrayal. The prince, if weak, will try to please all voices, rushing from one command to another, never holding his own ground. And soon his kingdom falls, not because his enemies were stronger, but because his mind was never still. You see, the battlefield is not made of swords. It is made of distractions. The cleverest enemies do not fight you directly. They merely keep you busy. They make you chase shadows. They fill your head with noise until you forget your original purpose. This is why rulers fall. This is why men waste their lives. They are conquered not with force, but with fragments of attention stolen day after day. Now let us turn to you. Do you imagine you are free? Look at how you spend your hours. You wake, and the world pulls at you immediately: voices, demands, obligations, endless noise. You convince yourself that this is necessary, that you are being productive, that your presence in every little matter is important. But Machiavelli tells you the truth: this is nothing but weakness. A prince does not scatter himself. He is deliberate. He gives his mind only where it serves his power. Consider how easy it is to distract a man. Offer him praise, and he will chase it like a dog after meat. Offer him outrage, and he will lose himself in endless debates. Offer him comfort, and he will surrender his strength for fleeting ease. Tell me, is such a man powerful? No, he is already ruled, and the one who rules him is not a king, not a general, not even an enemy army. It is the constant stream of distraction. What is distraction but theft? Every moment stolen from your focus is a moment stolen from your life. And once stolen, it cannot be returned. You fool yourself into thinking you can recover it, that tomorrow you will be stronger, tomorrow you will be focused, tomorrow you will rebuild what was lost. But the truth is merciless. Tomorrow comes only to those who master today. The prince who postpones discipline until tomorrow has already surrendered his throne today. You must see distraction for what it is: the most cunning weapon ever used against you. It does not wound your body. It does not break your bones. It eats away at your strength from the inside. It makes you soft. It makes you indecisive. It makes you forget your mission. It convinces you that everything is urgent, and in chasing everything, you achieve nothing. This is how distraction destroys rulers, destroys empires, destroys men. If you would hold power, if you would master yourself, you must begin by declaring war on distraction. Treat every interruption as an enemy spy. Treat every unnecessary demand as a rival general trying to weaken your forces. The battlefield is everywhere: in your study, in your conversations, in your idle habits, in your own restless thoughts. You must be cold, ruthless, deliberate. A prince who leaves his gates open cannot complain when the enemy enters freely. And you leave your gates wide open every time you allow distraction to rule you. The man who cannot focus is like a general who marches his troops in circles while his enemy sharpens their blades. He wastes his strength, he drains his men, and when battle truly comes, he is unprepared. And yet how many live exactly in this way? They march in circles, every day, mistaking activity for achievement, mistaking movement for progress, mistaking noise for victory. A wise ruler does not squander his soldiers, and you must not squander your attention. Every fragment of focus must be gathered, sharpened, and directed toward one aim. For on this battlefield, only the focused survive, only the ruthless endure, and only the one who commands his attention commands his destiny, mercy, compassion, approval. These are words men love to hear, yet they are the very tools that strip them of strength. For where the heart bends to emotion, the mind loses its edge. And where the mind loses its edge, power is surrendered. Listen carefully. You have been taught since childhood to seek kindness, to crave applause, to measure your worth by the warmth of others. But what has this teaching created? Not rulers, not masters, but weak men, soft, uncertain, enslaved by the feelings of the crowd. This is not the path of power. This is the path of ruin. The true prince does not submit to such illusions. He rules with cold logic. He does not ask, do they like me? He asks, does this strengthen my position? The world is filled with those who confuse approval for authority. They think being loved is power. They are mistaken. To be loved is to be dependent on love. And what happens when the people withdraw their affection? The ruler who has built his throne upon love falls harder than any enemy could strike. Machiavelli understood this bitter truth: love is fickle, but fear and respect endure. To cling to love is to gamble with shadows. To stand upon logic is to command reality. Look at history and you will see the same pattern again and again. Rulers who sought to please their people, to bend to every demand, found themselves devoured by those very people when the tide shifted. Their downfall was not caused by weakness of army or treasury, but by weakness of resolve. They lacked the cold clarity to say no. They lacked the steel to resist the seduction of applause. And so they fell, not as kings, but as servants disguised in royal robes. Now ask yourself, how often do you bend your own will for the sake of being liked? How many times have you changed your course, not because it was wise, but because you feared disapproval? You smile when you want to frown. You agree when you want to resist. You accept when you should reject. Why? Because you are ruled by the warmth of others. You are governed by emotion. You are enslaved by your need to be embraced. But power does not come from warmth. It comes from ice. Cold logic is merciless. It looks at a friend and asks, does he strengthen me or weaken me? It looks at an opportunity and asks, does it advance my position or scatter my focus? It looks at an enemy and asks not, but do I hate him? Can I use him? Cold logic strips away the distractions of feeling and reveals the battlefield as it truly is. The prince who governs with logic will never be blindsided by betrayal, for he expects it. He will never be shocked by greed, for he counts on it. He will never be softened by praise, for he knows it is a chain, not a gift. Do not mistake this coldness for cruelty. It is not cruelty to refuse weakness. It is survival. It is not cruelty to reject applause. It is clarity. Those who lead with emotion may feel noble, but they are building castles on sand. And when the tide comes, their castles dissolve. The one who leads with logic builds his foundation on stone. His decisions may seem harsh to the soft-hearted, but they endure when storms rise. Think of the general who sends soldiers into battle. Does he weep for every man? Does he tremble with guilt at every death? If he did, he would never command. He would never win. The general must be cold, calculating, detached. His mind must see the entire war, not the single wound. So too must you rule yourself. You must not be swayed by the momentary sting of disapproval or the fleeting sweetness of praise. You must look beyond, to the greater field, to the larger victory. You live in a world where men are told to feel more, to open themselves, to bare their hearts as though vulnerability were strength. But this is a lie whispered to make you weak. The prince who bares his heart to all becomes a puppet, controlled by the strings of pity, guilt, and manipulation. Those who claim to love him today will betray him tomorrow, and he will stand bewildered asking why. I tell you why. Because he abandoned the cold logic of power and built his fortress on illusions. Do not confuse indifference with wisdom. A ruler who is indifferent wastes his throne. But a ruler who applies cold logic. He does not ignore emotion, he measures it. He does not indulge in feeling, he harnesses it. He does not despise love, but he never depends on it. He does not hate approval, but he does not live for it. He stands above it, using it only as a tool when it serves his aim. This is the coldest truth: emotions are to be commanded, not obeyed. Imagine yourself surrounded by those who praise you. Their words flow like honey, sweet and intoxicating. Most men would surrender to this sweetness, letting their guard down, believing themselves beloved. But the man of logic smiles coldly and asks, what do they want from me? What power are they attempting to take? For praise is never free. It is always currency. and those who live on it will always pay the highest price. Now picture the opposite. The crowd turns against you. They mock you, they scorn you, they shout your name in anger. Most men collapse at such noise, desperate to restore favor, to win back what they never truly owned. But the man of logic is unmoved. He knows the crowd is fickle, that their cries change as swiftly as the wind. He asks not, do they despise me? But, does their hatred matter? Does it alter my position? Does it weaken my hand? This is why cold logic is feared. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be controlled by praise or by scorn. It sees beyond the emotions of the moment and asks only one question: does this preserve my power, or does it diminish it? And in answering that question, a ruler secures his throne while all others crumble around him. The greatest fortress a man can build is not of stone, nor of steel, but of thought. And yet, most men leave their fortress undefended, wandering in the chaos of the world, never once daring to turn inward. Do you see what destroys most men? It is not their enemies, it is not fate, it is not misfortune, it is their refusal to face themselves. They drown in noise, in distraction, in the endless demands of the outside world, and they forget the most dangerous battlefield of all, their own mind. The world seduces you with constant motion. It convinces you that progress is found in running, in speaking, in rushing from one task to another. But this is a lie. A ruler who spends his life chasing others is no ruler at all. He is a servant to the chaos around him. And you? If you live in this way, you too live in the servant. For true mastery, true sovereignty, begins only when you turn inward. What does it mean to turn inward? It means to silence the claimer of the world and study yourself as though you were studying an enemy. A wise prince examines his strengths and weaknesses with merciless honesty. He asks you, where am I vulnerable? Where am I strong? What forces within me can be commanded, and what forces must be chained? You may wish to avoid such questions, to distract yourself with the comfort of noise, but understand this. The enemy you do not face inside yourself will destroy you more quickly than the enemy outside your gates. Consider this: a ruler who knows his enemies, but not himself, may win battles, but he will never win wars. For in the silence of the night, when no allies remain, it is himself he must command. The cowardice will fear within him, the hunger for approval, the weakness for pleasure. All of these are assassins lurking inside his own walls. Only by turning inward, only by facing them, does he seize the power to rule not just others, but himself. You have been taught to study the world, to read books, to gather knowledge, to memorize facts, to seek teachers, to look outward. But what use is knowledge if the one holding it is ruled by his own undisciplined mind? The man who knows 10,000 truths, but cannot govern his own thoughts, is no stronger than a fool. But the man who knows himself deeply, who turns inward and sharpens his discipline, is stronger than any army, for his mind cannot be conquered. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in silence, without reaching for distraction, without escaping into noise, and truly examined your own thoughts? You fear such silence, do you not? You fear it because it reveals weakness. It shows you how fragile your focus is, how restless your desires are, how undisciplined your spirit has become. You call it boredom, but I tell you the truth, it is cowardice. You run from yourself because you fear the truth of who you are. But the prince who is wise, he does not run. He faces the silence as one faces a mirror. He learns to hold his own mind steady, to discipline his own will, to master his own emotions. He trains in solitude as a soldier trains with steel. For every moment of self-mastery strengthens him against the chaos of the world. When the crowd screams, he remains calm. When fortune shifts, he remains steady. When enemies plot, he remains prepared. Why? Because he has already ruled himself. Turning inward is not retreat, it is not weakness, it is strategy. The general retreats not to surrender, but to regroup, to sharpen his weapons, to prepare for decisive victory. So too must you retreat into yourself, not to escape the world, but to master it. For the world belongs to the man who is unmoved by its noise, and only the one who turns inward can achieve such strength. Think of the rulers who were destroyed not by their enemies, but by themselves. The king who could not master his temper, and so alienated his allies. The prince who could not master his greed, and so bled his people dry. The leader who could not master his lust, and so fell into scandal and ruin. They did not lose to armies. They lost to the assassins within their own hearts. If they had turned inward, if they had faced these enemies with cold discipline, they might have ruled forever. You may believe you are strong, but have you tested yourself against yourself? It is easy to appear disciplined when the world is calm. But when temptation whispers, when fear presses upon you, when despair rises like a tide, then your true ruler is revealed. If you have not trained your mind, if you have not studied yourself, you will be ruled by whatever feeling is strongest in the moment. One day you are bold, the next you are cowardly. One day you are disciplined, the next you are indulgent. One day you are sovereign, the next you are slave. Turning inward means forging constancy where others collapse. It means standing firm when the crowd panics. It means guiding your ship through storms because you have already calmed the storm inside yourself. This is why men of true power appear unshakable. It is not because they are immune to fear or temptation, but because they have already faced it within and conquered it. When you govern yourself, nothing external can govern you. No insult can wound you. No praise can intoxicate you. No storm can drown you. The world loses its power to enslave you because you carry your sovereignty within, and the one who carries sovereignty within can rule without. To the weak, solitude is exile. To the strong, solitude is a fortress. And to the ruler, solitude is not escape. It is a weapon sharper than any blade. You live in a world that fears silence. Men surround themselves with noise, with chatter, with endless company, not because they love it, but because they cannot endure the weight of their own thoughts. They call it loneliness, but loneliness is only the cry of the undisciplined mind. A prince does not fear being alone. He bends solitude his will and turns it into a weapon. What is solitude if not the space where the masks fall away? In the court men lie. They flatter, they scheme, they conceal their intentions behind honeyed words. But in solitude, no mask remains. There in the silence, the ruler faces truth, his own ambitions, his own fears, his own flaws. And only he who has the courage to face this truth can ever wield true power. The crowd exhausts itself in distraction. They cannot be silent, for silence exposes them. They cannot be still, for stillness terrifies them. And so they seek others constantly, hoping to drown their inner weakness in noise and motion. But the prince is different. He withdraws not out of weakness, but out of strategy. He withdraws not because he has been rejected, but because he knows that only in solitude can he sharpen the weapons of the mind. Do you think great strategies are born in the marketplace, in the tavern, in the endless chatter of the crowd? No. Great strategies are born in chambers of solitude. The general studies his maps alone. The philosopher wrestles with truth in silence. The ruler considers moves in isolation, away from the noise of flatterers and the distractions of applause. Solitude is not retreat. It is command. It is where the prince chooses not to react to the world, but to shape it. Consider the danger of constant company. Every voice is a hand pulling at you, every opinion a chain binding you, every demand a thief stealing your focus. Surrounded by others, you become a puppet, dancing to the strings of their expectations. But in solitude, the strings are cut. You are free to think with precision, free to plan without interference, free to strengthen your will without compromise. To those who fear solitude, it feels like emptiness. To those who master it, it becomes clarity. Solitude is where you sharpen the most ruthless of weapons, your mind. It is in solitude that you dissect your failures, strip away illusions, and forge new strategies. It is there that you study not only the world, but yourself without mercy, without distraction. Each hour spent alone is an hour of preparation, an hour in which your enemies, lost in noise and indulgence, grow weaker while you grow sharper. Do not mistake solitude for idleness. The idler hides from the world to escape responsibility. The prince seeks solitude to prepare for responsibility. He does not waste the silence. He bends it, shapes it, weaponizes it. He reads, he studies, he contemplates, he strengthens the fortress of his mind until no assault can breach it. And when he returns to the world, he does not return as he was. He returns sharper, colder, more prepared than those who never left the noise. Think of the wolf alone. It studies the ground, stalks the prey, waits in silence. It does not fear the quiet, it uses it. And when the moment comes, it strikes with precision, overwhelming the prey that never knew it was being hunted. So too must you use solitude. In silence, you stalk your opportunities. In stillness, you prepare your strike. And when you emerge, the world will not see you coming. The weak avoid solitude because it confronts them with themselves. They fear the emptiness of their own thoughts, the weight of their own unresolved battles. But the prince seeks it because he knows that only in solitude can he harden himself. Only there can he learn to command his emotions, to master his impulses, to silence the noise within. And when he has mastered solitude, he is no longer dependent on the world. He no longer needs their presence, their constant noise. He carries his sovereignty with him, unshaken, unbroken, untouchable. To weaponize solitude is to make silence your ally. It is to transform isolation into preparation, reflection into strategy, quiet into strength. The world sees solitude as absence. The wise ruler sees it as abundance, abundance of clarity, abundance of discipline, abundance of power waiting to be unleashed. No, you see it clearly. The battlefield of distraction, the cold logic of power, the turning inward, the weaponizing of solitude. These are not scattered lessons, but one single art, the art of ruling the mind. For he who rules the mind rules the self. And he who rules the self cannot be ruled by any man. Most men surrender before the fight even begins. They scatter their strength in distractions. They enslave themselves to the warmth of approval. They flee from their own reflection. They tremble at silence. Such men may lie, but they never reign. They drift like leaves in the wind, carried wherever the world blows them. But the prince, the one who is cold, ruthless, deliberate, he gathers his power where others waste it. He sharpens focus when others scatter. He chooses logic when others beg for love. He turns inward where others flee themselves. He embraces solitude where others collapse in fear. And in this discipline, he becomes sovereign, untouchable, unshackable. Remember this: crowns are not placed upon the heads of the distracted. Thrones are not kept by those who beg for approval. Empires are not secured by men who cannot rule their own minds. Power belongs to the focused, the cold, the inward, the solitary. For only they carry within themselves the one weapon no rival can ever steal: mental power, absolute and unbroken.